We're in the IMAX theater now here at the Visitor Complex, and they're showing two movies. Take a look. Space Station in 3D, and over here, the Hubble movie in 3D. Now, you know, you can go on a virtual spacewalk here, and it's not going to cost you anything because you know how expensive and bulky spacesuits are. You don't need those here. You just have your 3D glasses, and away you go on that virtual spacewalk. This is the astronaut encounter. And when I say astronaut encounter, I mean astronaut encounter. You can always find a real, live, breathing astronaut here. Today, it's J.D. Bartow, John David Bartow, flew back in 1985.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah. And now you're here, and the guests get to talk to you, and you talk to them. What's it all about? What do you do?
Okay, well, you know, there's an astronaut here every single day that the place is open, which is practically every day of the year. And we give various talks during the day. For instance, I just finished a talk here in the auditorium to folks, and I'll do another one here at 11 o'clock this morning. And then we have a lunch with an astronaut in the middle of the day.
Lunch with the astronaut.
You bet, you
wow,
bet.
So that's a lot of fun.
We gather over in the deepest center where there's a really nice buffet set up.
But that's real food, right? It's not the kind of stuff you guys had to eat up in the space
No, it's
shuttle,
good stuff.
Right?
It's really
it's
good stuff.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
In fact, after I do that little piece over there, I sit down and eat it myself. So it is really good. And then there's another opportunity in the afternoon where I give another lecture in here. And every time, you know, when we give lectures here, we also do a question and answer, so there's lots of interaction with the audience.
I wanted to ask you about that. What kind of questions do you get from the audience?
Any question you can possibly imagine, from explain to me the physics of how you can orbit. I got that question from an 11-year-old yesterday.
An 11-year-old?
Yeah, that's right.
They're a lot smarter than I ever was.
And a 6-year-old wanted me to explain why is it that the Earth rotates.
Really?
Yes. Okay, so these kids are really smart, and it's tough to do this work because of the questions. But then we end the day with an opportunity to sign autographs for people. So we go over to this super space shop, the largest space shop, you know, that there is in the whole country, probably the world. And we sit over there for about an hour. People come up, we sign autographs of anything they want to bring to us. We have a little conversation. We can take another picture over there. So it's a really busy day for us, but a super time for the guests too.
I was going to say, what a treat it must be for the folks that come here to get to spend a little bit of time with, you know, women and men like you who flew in space, but it's got to be kind of a treat for you too.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's the best thing for us to be doing, because this is our way to really pay back the folks for giving us the opportunity to fly in space. It's a true pleasure for us to be able to talk to the public and tell them how exciting it really was.
And you know, here of course the theme is, you know, always exploring, and I'm sure you get a lot of questions about the future too, right?
You bet. I certainly do get a question about the future, and NASA's working hard on the future. The only thing that's limiting what NASA can do is what the federal government will fund NASA to do. So that's our limiting factor. We could be on our way to Mars pretty soon if Congress would give us a little more than 1/4% of the budget.
Well, you know, when I come here the next time, and whenever I talk to anybody, I'm going to recommend that they spend a little time with you guys here and women here at the astronaut encounter, and have lunch too, since it's pretty good food.
Yeah, you're darn right it is.
John David, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Pleasure to talk to you today.
Pleasure.
You
Absolutely.
take care.
For me, this is the crown jewel of any visit to the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. The Space Shuttle Atlantis. 33 trips into space, 126 million miles flown, 146 different astronauts had flown on board the Space Shuttle. This is Atlantis, and when people come in here and they take a look at this exhibit, and they're standing so close to a vehicle that flew in space so many times and carried so many humans on missions to the International Space Station, to service the Hubble Space Telescope, it is awe-inspiring. Atlantis flew for the first time in 1985. Its last mission was in 2011 and marked the end of the Space Shuttle program. And now if you take a look inside, you can see that Atlantis is opened up, the cargo bay doors are opened up, and the shuttle is at a 43.21 degree angle. Nowhere else in the world is a shuttle displayed like this, which is at the exact angle that it flew. And you know what? On one of the missions that Atlantis flew, it serviced the Hubble Space Telescope. And here we have a replica of the Hubble Space Telescope, which sends us back some of the most glorious images of the universe that have ever been seen. You know, the space shuttles were used to build the International Space Station, which is bigger than a football field. Well, I'm inside a mock-up here at the visitor complex. And you know, the space station orbits about 250 miles above the Earth. The astronauts and cosmonauts performing all kinds of experiments up there. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take myself a little trip through the space station. So as you crawl through this mock-up of the International Space Station, you come to an area which is a clear tube, and out of that tube you can see the Space Shuttle Atlantis off to the side. And it's pretty much like the astronauts would have seen from the space station as they observed a space shuttle as it was leaving the International Space Station. So now this is really cool. You want to know what it would feel like for the astronauts when they're actually landing the shuttle at the shuttle runway here at the Kennedy Space Center? Well, this is how it feels. Whoa! You know, this is one of the most asked questions that any astronaut ever gets. How do astronauts go? And here at the visitor complex, of course, I'm going to answer that question for you. Look, here's the mock-up of a space toilet. Now, this is what they use for number one. And this, of course, is what they use for number two. Of course, in the simulators, there was a camera down inside the toilet so the astronauts could actually see how to line themselves up properly over the space toilet. And there I am, waving to you on camera. Hello? So now we're actually trying to land the space shuttle in one of the exhibits here at the Kennedy Space Center. I didn't do too well on that one. Let's not even look at the screen and see what I did. But now look, here we are. We're coming back in for the landing at the Space Shuttle landing strip, and I'm off course again. In a real space shuttle, you only get one opportunity. Remember, it's a glider when the space shuttle was coming in for landings here. So here you get to try and try and try until you get it right. And I can tell you right now, it's going to take me a lot of tries. Okay, so I didn't do real well landing the space shuttle, but I can try my luck at one of more than 60 interactive displays, like this one here, where you can try your luck at docking to the International Space Station. And if you want to try something else, how about the robotic arm? See if you can manipulate and maneuver the robotic arm. You've got the joystick here, all the displays, just as you would find it on the space shuttle. So there's all kinds of things to do, all kinds of things to see. You cannot go wrong. You know, here at the visitor complex, we like to say we're always exploring, and here we really prove it. This is the shuttle launch experience. And guests, when they come here, can actually sit down in these seats, and you are going to experience just what it's like to be on board a space shuttle, sitting on the launch pad, preparing for liftoff. You feel the roar of the engines as the shuttle takes off and leaves the tower behind. As you move out into space, this is an experience that really puts you just where the astronauts were on board the space shuttle, looking up at space. This is truly a spectacular, spectacular simulation. Now that was quite an experience. And you know, every astronaut I've ever spoken to says this simulator is pretty much exactly what they experienced when they powered off the ground and headed towards space.